Casey's biggest hits.
6 years ago this week, back in 1990, one of the biggest hits in the USA was Nothing Compares to You. By a singer with such an impressive voice, she stood out from a band notable for, quote, awful songs and awful playing. I'll have details and that big hit after this.
Casey's Top 40.
Radio plays them, Radio and Records ranks them, and we count them down on Casey's Top 40. Now, a singer born 23 years ago on the other side of the Atlantic in Dublin, Ireland. She's newcomer Sinead O'Connor, and she has the second of this week's 3 debuts on Casey's Top 40. At number 39, here's a song written by Prince, Nothing Compares to You.
Casey's Top 40.
I'm Casey Kasem, and that means we have a brand new number one song in the USA on Casey's Top 40, and it's by a singer who found her first big break while living in a place that was filled with panic, terror, and agony. Here's the story. She was born in Dublin, Ireland. She says when she was growing up, her parents' marriage was on the rocks and things were very unhappy at home. So she started hanging around in the streets. And like a lot of kids who hang out in the streets, she got into a lot of trouble, mainly for shoplifting. At age 13, after several offenses, she was sent to a Dublin reform school. She says she'll never experience such panic, terror, and agony again. It was a very harsh, strict place, and if you got out of line, they had a tough punishment. They made you sleep in the upstairs part of the building. No one wanted to go up there, because that part of the building wasn't a reform school. It was a place where terminally ill patients from the local hospital waited to die. To this young girl, the dark and musty atmosphere up there was absolutely frightening. Well, she endured life in that terrible reform school for 18 long months, reading and singing to herself to try to keep her mind together. Then one day, a sympathetic teacher at this school for wayward kids heard the young girl's beautiful voice and asked her to sing at her wedding. That proved to be what turned the 14-year-old's life around, because at the wedding, she met the teacher's brother, a musician who was part of a band. And he liked the young girl singing so much, he invited her to work with him on a song. Well, the song went on to be recorded by the brothers' band and went on to become a big hit in Ireland. That was the big break that really got this young girl going. Not because she made a lot of money, but for the first time in her life, she realized she could be a big success. So after she was released from reform school, she took a series of odd jobs until she finally got the chance to sing at local Dublin clubs. And eventually, that led to a record deal. Earlier this year, she released her second album called I Do Not Want What I Haven't Got. And this week, the first single from that album becomes her first number one. The brand new number one song in the USA on Casey's Top 40 is Nothing Compares to You, by a woman who really came up the hard way, Ireland's Sinead O'Connor.
Music. In true Christmas spirit, Sinead O'Connor called into a London TV talk show and donated her Los Angeles home to the Red Cross. Her former dwelling will be auctioned off in February with proceeds going to the Somalia Relief Fund. She bought the house 2 years ago for $800,000, so it should help a lot. And that wraps up this holiday edition of CT40 Music News.
Casey's biggest hits.
6 years ago this week, back in 1990, one of the biggest hits in the USA was by a singer with such an impressive voice, she stood out from a band notable for, quote, awful songs and awful playing. It was back in 1985 that a pair of talent scouts from London's Ensign Records went to see a band called Tantan Macu in Dublin, Ireland. They described the band as horrible, but they were impressed by the singer. Quote, a student type with baggy jersey and torn jeans just singing to her feet with this amazing voice, unquote. Despite the fact that the songs she was singing weren't very good, the voice stood out. And so they offered her a contract and put her in a studio with some musicians who could play and some songs worth singing. The result was one of the biggest hits in the USA 6 years ago this week. Here's Sinead O'Connor with Nothing Compares to You.
It's been 7 hours and 50 days since you took your love away. 'Cause nothing compares to you.